Welcome back. So, what is the single most tactical action you can take to make your body composition transformation more efficient and long lasting so that you don't have that spiral of gains and losses and gains again? Um, that would be to absolve refined carbohydrates from your life. That means to remove, to delete them. Literally, yes, 100%. I'm not into 100% usually, but in this case, when it comes to refined carbohydrates, if you want to experience that efficiency of fat burning, efficiency of just overall health and vitality and vigor, then it really behooves you. Um, I've seen hundreds of patients who, probably thousands actually, who they go halfway. We're like, all right, let's go 50-50 on these refined carbs. Let's go 80-20 on these refined carbohydrates. But I'm not seeing it work. I'm not seeing the long-lasting capacity to overcome addiction, capacity to just see, blood sugars come under control when we're just going 50-50 or 80-20. So if you're going to transform your food relationship and body composition indefinitely forever, I would highly suggest just dropping it. 100% good night refined carbohydrates. Just you're not a necessary part of life. You're not enabling my health. Refined carbohydrates, I'm just going to drop you off at my neighbor's door and I'm going to head on with my health accumulation. So what is a refined carbohydrate, you might ask? Well, that'd be like your cereals, your breads, your pastas, your crackers, your chips, all of the desserts that are grain based. And if you have any level of addiction to any of these food substances, it's time to say goodnight and sayonara. And I'm going to go full-fledged in health accumulation. I'm going to find new things that I enjoy, that I grab a hold of, and that feed my desires for lasting, solid, unencumbered health, vitality, and vigor. I mean, this can often seem easy on paper. I'm sitting there talking to a patient, telling, "Hey, let's do this. Let's eat meat and vegetables, fruit, nuts, seeds, beans, lentils, all these good foods, these whole foods. Let's skip out on the refined carbohydrates." But when life shows up, it's gonna be daunting. You consider that the average American consumes 50% of their diet consists of these refined carbohydrates that I just mentioned. 50%. But guess what? Like 75% of Americans struggle with diabetes, obesity, insulin resistance, crazy lipid profiles, and there's all these other chronic diseases hidden in there as well, right? So that we don't want to be standard American, of course. And I think it's often overlooked that because these foods say organic, they say gluten free. They got these pretty stickers on them, all this beautiful packaging, and we're thinking, I'm just gonna eat a little bit. I'm just here and there, refined carbohydrates, just a little bit. It's not gonna be that much of a difference. But I can tell you, that one time, it isn't one time. It never is one time. For myself, for my patients, family members, it's just never one time. Unfortunately, that one time tends to lead to a roller coaster of emotional eating and incapacity to maintain the level of diligence we desire to get what we desire when it comes to health and vitality and vigor, fat loss, and just pure enjoyment of our health. So the problem is with these refined carbohydrates is that they are they're insulin spikers, they're blood sugar spikers. And when you spike insulin, when you spike blood sugars, that leads to this cascade of not only emotional duress for our body, but pancreatic duress, liver duress, and the speed at which the sugars from these refined carbohydrates get into our body, they're making it so that we're not satisfied long enough. That we need to consume more calories because our body's like, hey, we already dripped through all those sugars you gave us. We either used them or we stored them, and now we need some more. We need some more. We need some more. We need some more. And then, of course, more calories with a lack of nutritional value lead to more fat gain, more challenges with body composition, more likelihood of diabetes, and etc. So one of the most touted reasons for consuming carbohydrates is for their fiber intake, right? But the deal is, when you're talking about refined carbohydrates, they've been stripped of their fibers, or the fibers that are in there have been completely mutilated, and they are no longer capable of feeding our gut flora and benefiting our digestive system and promoting feelings of satiety and satisfaction from our meals. They are in fact causing the exact opposite. They are feeding deranged bacteria. They are causing bowel issues and digestive unrest and gas and bloating and all these kind of things, and potentially like yeast overgrowth. So we want to watch this. And then there's the fact that these refined carbohydrates, they literally are devoid of nourishment. They're devoid of nutrition, but they are heavy in calories. I mean, they're heavy in energy, but devoid of nutrition. This means the body ends up actually wasting all manner of resources. The body's using its own B vitamins, its own minerals to process and digest these refined carbohydrates. And that leaves us lethargic, leaves us feeling unmotivated, unsatisfied by these meals because we're being depleted of nourishment while we're consuming these things. So now we're depleted of resources. The body is in a hangry state because it's already used or stored the quick carbohydrates that we ingested, but it needs something more. It has an expectation from us, and that expectation is not going to be met adequately by refined carbohydrates. And of course, this triggers more food intake as our reward pathways in our brain are turned, just bright as can be, saying, hey, give me more. I need some more reward. I need some more dopamine hits. So the next thing we know, we're overindulging, indulging beyond our power to control it. And now what happens? We feel like we just, we won a lottery for about 5 minutes by eating that refined carbohydrate. And then those voices start hitting us. The guilt, the shame, if you're not disciplined enough. You can't even, control your food intake. And what's that do? That creates a spiral of, I need some dopamine, I need some more reward, I need some more reward, and I'm not good enough. I can never do it, I never follow through. All this kind of craziness starts showing up in our mind because we're doing the thing we told ourselves we wouldn't do. We end up doing it anyway. No worries. We've all been through these cycles. We've all been through this. Maybe many of us are enduring it right now, probably, or have been within the last days or weeks. So the shame, the guilt, it's not going to help anything. But nevertheless, that's where our mind will go if we start consuming these things that we otherwise know do not contain in themselves health value. So this cycling of simple, refined carbohydrates, it literally ends up causing damage, or I should say changes in our brain that leads to damage in our body. But it literally changes physically our brain, the biochemistry in our brain, which leads to addiction and neurotransmitter imbalance. People, when they stop eating refined carbohydrates, they tend to potentially be depressed, have anxiety. Sleep might change for good or bad, and that's all related to the fact that they were consuming something that has more energy in it, more calories in it, than it has resources to figure out what to do with those calories, that energy that's in that food substance. And as you may know, the very reason I'm even making this video is because it's not an easy thing to stop these, right? Because they are so addictive. They're created for addiction. That is how these companies make boogles of money off us, is they've created a food for addiction. People who consume a high refined carbohydrate diet, they're also, they're more likely to be on antidepressants. They're more likely to be on anti-anxiety medication. They're more likely to have ADHD or be on ADHD medications. Of course, they're more likely to be on diabetic medications. But these neurologically generated medications, it is because they're living in a state of depleted nutrition. They're living a life in a body depleted of living nutrients. And so the nervous system feels unsafe. It feels out of control. It feels like almost like food is predatory, like it's fighting against it, the very desire for life. So we must, it's invaluable, it's so important that we take control of these refined carbohydrates, that we own them, that we take 100% extraordinary responsibility over our food inputs, particularly when it comes to refined carbohydrates, and we not allow ourselves to get drawn away, get drawn back into the hustle of busy, doing things just for the sake of convenience, and get caught up in that vicious, traumatizing cycle that is refined carbohydrate intake. I mean, it's trauma to the brain. It's little itsy bitsy trauma to the brain over and over as our sugar spike, as our insulin spikes, as food is put into our body that is resource low, but calorically energy high. I know this is a challenging, right? Really challenging, bringing it hardcore today. But this is why I say, if you're going for health accumulation, then refined carbohydrates, you might as well go 100% and never look back, because it's not offering you health accumulation. It's not. It's offering you a dopamine reward. It's offering you this instant gratification that leads to, essentially, like you're rolling down the street on your skateboard, and out of nowhere comes a sidewalk. You don't see it, and your face planting. That is what refined carbohydrates are doing to our body, especially if you're trying to traject on a road of health accumulation and body composition optimization. Now, the good news is, just as refined carbohydrates can dismantle our desired health destiny, whole complex carbohydrates, they can fuel our body for success. They can empower our being. And so no matter how many times you see on a cereal box that it's whole grains and all that kind of stuff, it's not. It just, there's no whole grains in there. They've all been smashed, they've all been glued back together, and they all are a refined, highly processed substance. So if you're making your own granola at home, yeah, different story. But otherwise, I would be really, really watching. The cereals are such a common one that people overlooked. But like I was saying, complex carbohydrates, they can power you up. They can be part of your health accumulation routine. And I would expect that they would be. You look at some of these blue zones and people that live for a long time. Many of them are eating tons, of sweet potatoes, of yams, of purple potatoes, because these complex carbohydrates, these resistant starches that are there, the phytochemicals that are in there, they supply life to our body. So complex carbohydrates are like sweet potatoes, yams, all your squashes, zucchinis, bananas, berries, beets, carrots, asparagus, purple cabbage, beans, lentils, basically all your vegetables, your broccolis, cauliflowers, kales, all of them. Essentially every vegetable, all your fruit would be considered a complex carbohydrate, because they are a real whole food, right? And the main issue I think many people run into is that their body may not be ready for all these complex carbohydrates, because it takes a lot of energy to digest them, assimilate them, which is one of the reasons if you are consuming, or you're starting to consume more complex carbohydrates, passing by the refined carbohydrates, then you're gonna probably want to cook or sprout or soak these complex carbohydrates. Other than fruit, that is, I would try to let fruit be in the raw. Otherwise, it's going to really turn into a lot of concentrated sugar in a hurry. But for all the the vegetable matter, the beans, lentils, nut seeds, any of the really starchy items, it's definitely best to cook them up, because otherwise you're going to minimize, you're going to minimize the irritant properties of them, especially to the digestive tract, and you're going to maximize the properties that are there to facilitate life and sustenance for your body. All the nutrients will become more available to the body in almost every vegetable if it's cooked to some degree or sprouted, or soaked. So let's make a point of, just like taking your bat, knocking those refined carbohydrates out of your life for good, and start, going full bore on the real complex carbohydrates when it comes to carbohydrates. Now, if you want to specifically, if body composition change is something you're shooting for, then you might not be able to eat 200 grams of complex carbohydrates every day and get those results, because your body is in a state of, if you have excess weight on you, there's already some level of insulin resistance. There's already some level of excess inflammation, of excess, undesirable hormone output happening if there's that fat on your body. So it may require you to have a lower, steady state of complex carbohydrates coming into your being. And then, if you're working out, days you work out, maybe you can have an extra 20, 30, 40 grams of complex carbohydrates and still see consistent body composition changes. And then on days you're not working out, you probably want to drop it down a little bit just to make sure that blood sugar stays nice and stable, the insulin levels stay nice and stable, and your body stays in a state of where it desires to use fat as an energy source and beta oxidation and clear your being of that excessness. So I'm Dr. Matt. I hope this is helpful. I hope somehow, some way, this helps you reduce the amount of simple, refined, highly processed, ultra-processed carbohydrates and permits you to live that life of abundance. It's totally available to all of us. No matter where we're at right now, we all can get a little bit healthier and create a little more opportunity for ourselves. So please share, send it to your family and friends. Let's get them all. Who knows when you're going to send them that thing that just ignites that passion for health and vitality and vigor in their being and cause them to make that whole new decision. They thought there's no way they could ever do that. It's totally available. Talk to you guys later.